Hi again guys, so welcome back to another Big Al Devlin video. Thank you for tuning in. If you haven't already seen them, I've already done some stretching exercises and strength exercises for the neck. However, this is the continuation of that stretching series, which will focus now on a bit on the chest, the shoulders, the biceps, triceps, and a little bit of the lower arm. There's not so much you can do for the lower arm, but you know what, we'll try and do our best, yeah? So the whole purpose of this is to maintain and improve our flexibility around certain joints. And the flexible joint or flexible muscles around the joint is always a good thing because it helps prevent injury, and it can actually increase your strength as well, because if you are lifting from here instead of from here, you're working the muscle over a much larger range. So stretching and flexibility is always a good thing, even if you're into that idea of I don't care, I just want to be strong. Well, in that case, stretch, because it's very, very important. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off with the shoulder and the chest, because they kind of come in together, and we'll move down the arm towards the fingers. Okay, so the first thing, we always start most of the time with the most simple and most basic version of our exercises as a sort of mini warm-up for the joint. And for the shoulder, that is a simple rotation with a bent arm to start off with. It puts very little stress on the joint, and it gets the muscles working, it gets the joint moving. So if it's particularly early in the morning and you're feeling a little bit down under the weather, it's not too much of a shock to the system. Of course, you don't do this for this long, and for video purposes, all I'm saying is all the stretches that I'm doing on here are much shorter, or all movements that I'm doing on here are much shorter in duration than what I would do when I'm down the gym. It's just to show you what the basic movements are. But once you've done it with a bent arm, you can then do it with a straight arm, which is, believe it or not, even though it's basically the same movement, it's actually harder. I am a little bit inflexible in the rear of my shoulder, always kind of have been, but since the car crash I'm even more so, and I kind of stick a little bit there. I can kind of almost feel it clicking, which I don't get when I'm doing bent arm, as you can see, not a problem. But like that, I'm actually trying to go as fast as I can. It's a lot harder. So that's why I always say start with bent arm to start off with, because it's a little bit easier, but you get into the rotation forwards and backwards to warm up the shoulder, and to some degree, going backwards, it pulls a little bit on the chest as well, so it can help stretch the chest off. Now, of course, that's just a warm up, that's to get the muscles moving and working. And of course, one of the advantages of doing these kind of movements and stretches is if you feel pain doing that, that's a sign of end your workout there and then, or do another body part, because if you're feeling pain doing this, bad pain, then you get onto the bench press with 140 kilos or something, it's going to tear your muscle, isn't it? Or it's got a good chance of it. So it's always a good thing to start off the exercises doing stretches, because it helps you work out if there's something wrong also. Now, the next thing we can do as a basic movement is also mimicking the bench press movement. Okay, so we go all the way up, back, and hold. And the important thing is when you're doing these movements, is you're doing it whilst contracting the muscles, because that can actually pump you up. It's almost an exercise in its own right. So I'm really tensing up as much as I can here, and I can feel the stress along here, along the back of my tricep, and in my rear deltoid as well. And same when I go forwards, I can feel my back stretching. So look, you can see the muscles are tensing almost there. Okay. And again, that's a little bit of an exercise that just gets the muscles working and gets the blood pumping into the areas that you're about to use. Now, of course, comes the stretches around the shoulder and the chest. Now, these stretches are important because one of the most common injuries in bodybuilding, in fact, probably the most common injury in bodybuilding or any form of weight exercise, or even in a lot of sports, especially ones that involve throwing, javelin, cricket, baseball, anything along those lines. The most common injury is a rotator cuff tear, okay, or a rotator cuff injury. That's where basically you mess up your shoulder joint in simple terms, okay, and so this is why we stretch it. Now, if you haven't got something to rest against, you should always have a tree or a wall or a pillow or something to put your hand against. You can do this in the air like I'm about to show you, but then I'm also going to go over towards the wall and show you there as well. But basically what you do is you get your hand and you place it on the obstacle, or if you're in air like I am now, you just keep it here, And remember, we're always tensing our muscles as much as we can within the range of the movement that we're trying to do. And what you do is you kind of twist your body a little bit whilst trying to keep your arm in the same place. And you kind of reach in as far back. In essence, you're trying to backhand your head, bang. But of course you can't do that. But that's a way of kind of visualising it, which might make it easier. And what you're doing is you're stretching it all the way off here. That's where a lot of stress is, and here for me. But you might find it's a little bit more inflexible somewhere else, or more flexible here and there, whatever, for yourself. But what you're trying to do, is stretch all this off primarily. That's where you're working, and it will stretch off down here as well. So if I was to go against the wall like that, and I was to do the same, that's what you do. Now, to make things a little bit harder, what you do, if you've got an obstacle that you're putting your hand against, not only do you kind of pull it back, but you step into the obstacle as well. And that way you're using your body weight to push the joint. I'll show you now. So hand against the wall, and what I'm doing is I'm not just twisting the body, I'm twisting the body and stepping into it. Oh, wow. That stretch is so much better then. Not only do you get here, but you get all around here, and you can feel it feels fantastic. Bear in mind, you would hold that for 10 to 30 seconds once you're at your maximum stretch, and you would repeat it at least 2 to 3 times, but more is better. More is better. But obviously I don't want to make this video 15-20 minutes long. Now, that would also stretch the bicep. That's how you stretch the bicep. If you want to work mostly on the bicep and not much else, you find an obstacle low down and you hold it and you do the same thing, but you're focusing on keeping the arm straight and stretching the bicep off. The tricep, what you do is you reach back, clipping your ear as you go back, and you're basically trying to scratch your back like this, yeah? Now you can do that, as I say, we start off simple, just like I'm doing now, and try and reach as far back as we can. Remember to contract all the muscles. However, to make it harder, you get your free hand, hold it on the elbow tip, and pull back. Ooh. Right, so what I'm going to show you is the difference. So that's me there, naturally, and then when I'm pulling back, I get quite a bit more further, okay? And again, you would hold those positions, and you would repeat it, of course, on both sides also. The last few things we can do is obviously the wrist joint. You can rotate it like this, okay? Remember, contracting the forearm like that, so you can see I'm shaking, I'm really pulling hard there, okay? And you would hold, and you can also find an obstacle and put your hands back like that. But rotation of the wrist, just to warm up the wrist, if you want to do that. I never do it, I don't really see any point in that one, but it's there for if you want it. The other one, interlock the fingers, like so, push down like this. That actually, I can feel it up here a little bit, but it's mostly for the thing, well, you think it's the fingers, but what moves the fingers is the muscles in the forearms, so it actually helps stretch the forearms, as well as the finger joints themselves, the ligaments and tendons in the fingers. Okay, and what you can do, you can go down, but you can also go up, and change the position slightly to try and hit other parts along the arm. Okay, now thanks guys, that's pretty much all you can do. Unfortunately, there's not a massive amount of stretches for these body parts, mainly because to stretch the bicep and tricep, well, essentially it's on a hinge joint, and the hinge joint does one or two things. It bends and it straightens, flexes and extends, okay? So as a result, there's not a lot of motion around here to work with. Obviously, our main focus, because it's so flexible, is the shoulder, and in some degree the wrist also. But I hope that gives you some ideas, guys, on how to keep stretched, flexible and healthy, and I will see you soon.